Okay, so for the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about crossing the chasm. So what I want to do right now is for the last 2 weeks, I've pretty much given you time to read through the book, look through different materials. You had a couple of case studies, a number of discussions, and you had a lot of opportunities to work through these principles on your own. I did that on purpose because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create critical thinking skills with you. Now, what exactly is that? We hear academics say that on a regular basis, but it's almost like a buzzword. What does that even mean? So what that means is when you're presented with a situation and you don't have the answers yet, can you use the materials that you have around you to try to figure out what that answer is? All right, that's what critical thinking is. There are times in your career, whether you have now or you definitely will in the future, you're going to be presented with situations that are new to you, whether you're managing a team or you're launching a new product. And you have to have the ability and the practice to be able to say, okay, you know what? This is a new situation. We've never dealt with something like this before in the past. But you know what? We can use the different tools that we have around us to try to figure this out. And that's why I give you this material first. And then towards the end of the week, I actually give you step by step situations of how to actually accomplish that because I want you to have that time to be in that place of messiness, we call it, where you're trying to figure things out on your own. And then at the end, I come in and I show you step by step. Okay. So this Zoom session right here should really bring everything in the last 2 weeks together for you. So, in a nutshell, when we're talking about crossing the chasm, really what we're talking about is advanced segmentation and advanced target marketing strategies. All right. So, these are two terms that we should break down one by one first. All right. So, let's start with talking about your target market. So, what exactly is your target market? Number one, the target market is these individuals who are most likely to use your product. All right. This is important. These are the individuals who your company will divert resources to attract. Right. It needs to be broad enough to encompass all key users, but it also needs to be narrow enough not to waste resources on the people who will not be avid users of the product. So, what does this mean? Let's say you were to start your own business. Now, maybe for some people, you have to mortgage your house. Maybe you're emptying out your savings account. Maybe you're asking your friends and your family for this money. All right. So the resources that you have, the money, the capital, is very scarce. Now, the question here is, would you use that money that you just mortgaged your house for to actually spend on a group of people, advertising to a group of people that are most likely not going to be your customers? The answer is no. Your resources are very limited, so you have to be careful with how you spend them. So, what the target market means is who are these individuals who are most likely to use your product or your service? Now, the key question here is let's say you define your target market. Is there a chance that people outside of that target market will be a customer? Absolutely. You're not going to say no to business. If someone wants to do business with you, you're obviously going to accept them. The question here, and the main question, is who is that group of people that you are willing to divert your resources to attract? This is the path of least resistance. Who is that core group of people that are most likely to do business with you? That's your target market. Now, here's the thing, you're going to define your target market, right? And within your target market, what you're going to notice is there are a number of different segments. And that's what we talk about segmentation. Okay, so what exactly is that? So you know that your target market is this key group of individuals who are most likely going to use your product or services. But within that target market, there are a number of other various people and various groups of people, which we call segments, who will use your product for different reasons. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to divide our market into meaningful and measurable segments according to common traits, common interests, demographics, different ways that people use your product. And this is done to create customized marketing messages, all right, and product features which cater to these different specific segments. So think about this. You have identified who your target market is. But once you've identified that group of people, there are different segments within that target market that are going to use your product for different reasons. And now here's the key. It's important for you to understand what these different reasons are, who these different people who are going to be using your product for different reasons, And more importantly, how can you communicate with them so that you can clearly tell them that your product does exactly what they're looking for? All right, so take a look at this right here for an example. So let's say this right here is a target market. And let's say that within this target market, we've identified 5 different segments. Now, these segments are based on life stages. This is just an example. It could be many different companies that use this. So one segment is young singles. They use my product for a certain way. Another one is young couples that do not have children. Another segment could be young families. Another segment could be families with older children. And the number one, empty nesters. Okay. Kids have grown up, they're out of the house, they have their own families. Now, look at this right here. Let's say this is all part of your target market. But will you agree that each segment want completely different things, right? So an individual who is a young single is a different stage in their life. They have different wants, different needs than a family with older children. So that's why we segment. So we clearly identify exactly who these different groups are in our target market that use our product. Let's use an example. Okay, you guys all know about Starbucks. So let's talk about Starbucks target market as well as different segments that they have. Okay, so we can say that Starbucks target market is premium coffee drinkers, ages 16 to 70, male and female. Now, that's the target market. And I noticed that I actually have a spelling error. It should say ages when it says ager. So yes, I did pick that up. Now, first I say premium. Why do I say premium? Well, the number one reason why I say premium is because when you go to Starbucks, are you looking for a discounted cup of coffee? No, absolutely not. In fact, you're actually expecting to spend more money going to Starbucks than, let's say, if you were to go to Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. So that's why we say premium. The people who go to Starbucks, for the most part, they're expecting to pay more money for the coffee, and they're okay with that. Next, I have coffee drinkers. Now, you might say, well, I get my tea at Starbucks. Absolutely correct. There is a good chance that there are a lot of people who get tea at Starbucks. But the majority of the people, what do they get? Coffee. And that's what we're doing with the target market is we're focused on what is that majority, that path, the least resistance of people that come into your business. And I have ages 16 to 70. Now, that's a big group. And some of you might say, well, you know what? My 12-year-old child goes to Starbucks all the time. They always want to get Starbucks, right? That's right. Absolutely. But again, we're going for the key group of people that are most likely to use this product or service. And maybe they're focusing on 16 because that's the age that people start driving, right? So that is your target market. Now, again, are there people outside of this that use that company? Absolutely. But this is their core group. Now, within this target market, there are multiple segments because people use Starbucks for many different reasons. Here are a couple of examples. Number one, working professionals who are conducting a meeting. I'm sure many of you or you've known someone who has actually conducted a meeting out of Starbucks. It's convenient. They're all over the place. It's a good place for you to meet with someone. Okay. Another one, independent contractors getting work done. If someone's a graphic designer or a freelancer or a web designer, okay, a lot of times they don't have an office that they check into. They want to get out of the house. They'll go to a local coffee shop to get some work done. Another option, high school females hanging out with their friends. And then finally, I have international coffee enthusiasts. All right, every month Starbucks has a new list of international flavors and international coffees that they sell. Now, look at these four different segments. Do they all fit within the target market? Yes, absolutely. But here's the question. They all want different things, don't they? So that international coffee enthusiast, if Starbucks stopped offering international coffees, would that segment still do business with them? No, they wouldn't. So it's important for them to understand. Working professionals conducting a meeting, if Starbucks took away their chairs and their couches and their tables that people use to do work, would they still use that product? No, they wouldn't. So that's why it's important to understand who your different segments are, because they are different groups of people within your target market who are looking to use your same product in your company for different reasons. Now, here's the thing. If you do not identify the different reasons why people use your business, will you properly be able to serve them? No. That's why it's really important to clearly identify who your target segment is and who these different segments are within this target market. All right, so now let's take a look at this one right here. How do you break up your target market into segments? Well, there's many ways to do it. Number one, end uses. And that's pretty much what we just did at Starbucks. And pretty much what end uses means is how are customers using your product differently? What are different ways that people are using your products? Okay, so that's one option. Next, demographics. Same exact thing on demographics. What demographics is statistical characteristics that different groups of people have. For example, age, different age groups, male or female, gender, married, single, different occupations, income level. If you are B2B, which means business to business, it could be the size of different businesses. Maybe you're classifying people on the different size of business. Maybe you're classifying business based on how much volume of sales they conduct with your company. Okay, so these are all demographics. Next, geography. Maybe you classify your target segment based on different areas of the world or different areas of the country. So, for example, will the needs of people in the United States be different than the needs of, let's say, an individual living in Eastern Europe? Absolutely, especially depending on your product and depending on the different cultures. So geography plays a key role. Even if you talk about the Northwest of the United States compared to the Southeast of the United States, completely different cultures in those geographic areas. They may pertain to different elements. Now, you may have a universal product that attracts everyone. Let's say you're going after the United States, and it doesn't matter what part of the country you are in, this product is capable for everyone. That's cool. That's fine. But in some cases, you want to be mindful, does geography make a difference? Okay. Next one, interests and commonality. So really this is what do these groups have different interests? Do they have different passions? Do they have different beliefs? Do they have different religions? Do they have different commonalities that they all have in common? And maybe you want to focus on that. So for example, let's say you are a health club and different interests could be maybe some people have a passion for weightlifting and they want to be big and buff. Maybe another common interest is cardio. Maybe another common interest is yoga. Maybe another common interest is group sessions, right? So these are all different segments, all different interests that different people have, and you need to cater to them. So for example, if your target market is health enthusiasts, for example, let's say ages 20 to 59, I'm just using an example, and that's your target market. But within that market, you have people who are more interested in nutrition. You have people who are interested in the weights. You have people who are interested in the classes. You have people who are interested in cardio and endurance. Okay. Now, if all of these different segments make up your target market, you have to make sure that your product clearly offers what each segment wants, or they're going to go to someone else. Likewise, you're going to make sure that you clearly customize your messaging to go to these different segments so they know that you have the product and services that they're looking for. Okay. Next thing, behavioral. So what that talks about is how do your customers behave? For example, some customers prefer a brick and mortar store to go into. Some people prefer to shop online. Some people shop once a month. Some people shop once a year. Okay, these are all different behaviors that you can classify. Now, you might ask, okay, what demographic or what different segmentation tools should I use? It really depends on your business and it depends where you guys are going. Okay, this next slide is going to show a couple of examples of each one of these 5 different areas, and for the most part, stuff that we just talked about. All right, so you guys can review that if you want. So when we're talking about segmentation, here are a couple of key reminders. Number one, end use is the most common way to segment, but not in all cases. Okay, what I mean by that is like when we did the Starbucks, different ways that people use your product. People use it, to get work done. People use it to hang out with friends. People use it for international coffee. All right, that is the most common, but it's not the only way. So each business is going to be different. You have to do what's best for your business. Next, when segmenting, you will often use a combination of the 5 ways to segment. This is what I mean. Look at this example. Young professional, 25 to 39, that's a demographic. In Southeast USA, that's geography, who need a space to meet with clients and use. Okay, so this one segment, I use 3 of those 5 different elements to define who this segment is. There might be times where you use 1. There might be times where you use all 5. Again, it's not a perfect formula. It is what fits for your company. And that is the main thing. In all cases, do what makes most sense for your company. Okay. So at this point, we've talked about our target market. Who is those group of people, the path to least resistance, who are most likely to use your product? It needs to be broad enough to encompass all of them, but specific enough so you're not wasting your money advertising to a group that will not do business with you. Okay, so that's number 1. Now, within your target market, you're going to have multiple segments because people are going to use your product in different ways. That's why we segment, which means divide, your target market into different groups based on those 5 features that we just talked about. So here is the key question I want to ask you next. Do you think some segments will use a new technology, a new product, or even be a new customer of a new business before other segments? That's a question to think about. So now, when you're answering this question, think of your career and think where you want to go. Do you want to be a business owner where you're going to start your new business? So really, if you're going to do that, the question you want to ask yourself is, are there specific segments that will do business with me first before others do? Do you want to be a manager of a company that wants to produce new products on a regular basis? So if you have a new product that comes out, what you want to ask yourself is, are there specific segments that will buy my product before other segments do? Okay, so that's a key question that you want to ask yourself. And that's when we get into the strategies of crossing the chasm. All right, let me show you a graph that kind of illustrates this. Take a look at this. This is global iPhone sales from third quarter 2007 when iPhone first came out. And it goes all the way to the third quarter of 2018. Now, what do you see? What do you notice with this right here? And if you notice, you can see it starts off really slow. Then it starts to pick up a little bit of steam. Okay, so let's say Q3 2008, you get a little bump over there. Really, that'll be Q4 where you see that big jump, Christmas season 2008. And then it kind of gets a little bit of a bump into Q1 2012. But then when you get into Q2 2012, you see a real big spike. Okay. And you can see it starts to form a little graph. You can see it starts off slow and it starts to pick up. So what does this mean? This means that when the iPhone first came out, not everyone jumped on board. Think of where you were when the iPhone first came out, depending on what age or what category you fall into, right? There were a couple of people that when it came out, they were Apple enthusiasts. They loved the company. They were loyal to the company and they just wanted the newest product, regardless of what it was. So they bought it immediately. But you also had a group of people that had no clue what this iPhone was. You know, ask yourself, when the iPhone first came out, did you even know what it was? All right. This new app thing. What was that when it first came out? You know, now we take it for granted, but when it first came out, it was so new and so extraordinary and so different. A lot of people couldn't even comprehend what it was. So what you see here in this graph, what it tells you is there's a group of people that will just jump onto a technology just because it's the newest thing. That's that first group. Then that next tier, once they see others using this product, they're like, hey, you know what? I can use this product for a competitive advantage. Those apps, I can make them, those apps will help me be more productive. You remember that commercial? There's an app for that. So another group that will use this technology for a competitive advantage. They want to be more productive. They want to save time. They want to save money. They want to be able to do more. They may want to be able to accomplish more. Maybe they want status. Okay. All these different reasons. That's this next tier. Then you see a huge jump up that comes up. Okay. So now all of a sudden you're in the mainstream population where now they see all these other people using this product. And then it's like monkey see, monkey do. Hey, everyone else is doing it. Let me jump on board. Okay. And that's that next group. So take a look at this graph. And now what I'm going to do is let's shift gears a little bit and look at this. It's the same exact process. Okay. So starts off small, jumps up a little bit, and then you have a huge group. So this right here is the technology adaption life cycle, this graph right here. And this really is the whole heart of what crossing the chasm means. And pretty much here's the concept. You have a set group of segment that will jump on to your product right when it comes out, right when it comes out. Because this group right here just wants the latest and newest thing. They're perfectly okay with a product that might have some kinks in it. They're perfectly okay with a product that still needs some additions to it, but they want the latest and the newest thing. Like, think of the iPhone when it first came out. Was it perfect? Nope, not even close. But people still wanted it because it was the newest thing. And that is this segment right here. Here's why this is important. Let's say you have a segment that's in the early majority, and this segment needs to see social proof before they buy it. If you have a brand new product that comes out and you were to target a segment that's in the early majority, would they buy your product? The answer is most likely no. They need social proof before they see the product and before they buy it. And there's no social proof yet because it's brand new. No one's used it yet. So are they going to buy it? No, they're not. So here's where the strategy comes in, is you have to understand what these different stages are, and more importantly, what segments fall into each one of these segments, and which segments fall into each one of these stages. So let's say the first one, for example, innovators, the techies. These are the first group of people to jump onto a product. They want the latest and the newest thing. Next, you have the early adapters. We call them the visionaries because they're visionary. They see a product, even though it's not 100% finished, but they see what they can do with that product. They find new uses for that product. They realize that product can make them more productive. It can actually save them time. It can advance their business. It can advance their social life. It can advance their family life. You name it, whatever it is. The key thing with this group, they're looking for a competitive advantage. That's the most important thing with the early adapters. They're looking for a competitive advantage. Now you see a little chasm, because what this is we're shifting from the first two groups, which is a niche market, into the majority mainstream market, the early majority. And you can see this big, huge hump right here. Now, what does the early majority look for? They need social proof, what we just mentioned before. They want to see other people using it. They want to buy from the industry leader. And then when they see other people doing it and they see who is the leader in the industry, then they'll buy the product. Next group is the late majority. This group right here, because everyone else is doing it, okay, I got to jump on board. That's that final group. And then you have the laggards. This group you will not spend time with, because this is the group that only buys technology because their old technology is no longer in service, okay? Old timers, you might remember your grandparents have this device called an 8-track. If that was still available, that's what they'd be buying. Okay, they only buy a new product because they can no longer get it anymore. All right. Now let's look at these more in detail. Innovators. They're the first to commit to a new technology. They love to get their hands on the latest gadgets. They do not need a finished product as long as it's the newest product. This is important because let's say you have a product that's in development or a new company that's in development. They don't need it to be fine-tuned. They're okay with the latest and newest thing. But what's cool about this group right here is they'll give you valuable feedback for you to improve your product. So if you ever have test trials that go out, this is the group you want to send them to. And you often hear different companies that have alpha releases and beta releases, and they have different commercials saying, hey, you can be the first to try this new product. That's what they're looking for right here. They're trying to find the techies and the innovators. Exactly what I just said. They're ideal for alpha and beta testing. They want things for free or for a bargain, okay? Lack of disposable income. They're not going to spend a lot of money. They want the newest thing, but they're not going to be overly profitable for the most part, okay? There are a few exceptions. Apple loyalists is one of them, I would say, but there are a few exceptions. But for the most part, they almost want to do those trials because they know they're going to get a discount, okay? Catchphrase, this is cool technology. Remember these catchphrases because this will help you understand exactly who these different groups are, okay? 2.5% of the market, so it's a small group. Next, early adapters, the visionaries. They're driven to embrace the new technology to gain a competitive advantage. Listen, if there's anything I want you to remember with this group, this is it, competitive advantage. Early adapters are seeking that competitive advantage. I'm going to keep on saying that because it's important for you to understand. That's what they care about more than anything. Some people want that iPhone because it's the newest thing. Other people want it because they can use it for an advantage, either in business, personal life, productivity, you name it. They're willing to accept a solution that's not entirely complete, maybe 80%. They just want to get on board first. They're prepared to commit the required resources and effort to make the technology work, maybe possible beta testing. They have this is a key part. They have disposable income and they're willing to pay the premium. What that means is this is a profitable group. You can make a lot of money on this group. Think about this. Think of, let's say, the electronics company. When the product first comes out to market and it's overly overpriced, that group of people that buy it, now we're talking about after the alpha and beta testing, once it gets to the store, right? So we're already past the techie stage. When it gets to the store and the price is overly expensive, that's the early adapters that buy that. They're willing to pay that premium. They're willing to pay that extra amount of money for that. Okay, catchphrase, I can see the impact. Pretty much what it says is, hey, you know what? I see this product. I know how I can use it. I know how I can use it to increase my productivity. This group here is 13.5% of the market. Again, a small group, but this is a very profitable group. Now, I'm going to pause right here. When we talk about the innovators, and then when we talk about the early adapters, this is what we call a niche market. What that means is it's a very small group of people, and your product is highly customized, which means because you're only catering to a small group of people, your product is designed, your whole product is designed to make sure that is in line with the needs of those consumers. Okay. Now we're shifting from a niche market, which means a very loyal and passionate small group of people, to the mainstream, which means a lot of people. And that is the first group of the early majority, pragmatists. Okay. They rely hard on proven data and facts. Here's the key thing. They must see others use the product successfully before they purchase. Where the other two groups are willing to take a risk on a product because of the upside, this group is not. Social proof. They have to see other people using it with success more than anything. They tend to buy from the market leader. Why is that? Because they do not want any risk. The market leader is proven. The market leader is that group of people that they know what they're getting. And so that's why they go with that group. They're looking for a safe purchase. Catchphrase, show me. Show me it works. Show me other people using it, and then I will buy it. 34% of the market. This is a big group. Next, the late majority. They're price sensitive, and they're very demanding. They will adopt a new technology so that they're not left behind. So this group right here, what's happening here is they see everyone else doing it, and so now they jump on board. Also, this is the group, again, think of that new TV that just came out that's overly priced. This is the group that will say, I'm going to wait a couple of years until that price drops. And then when everyone has it and I see it works and the price is low and affordable, then I'll buy it. Okay, that's the late majority. They require facts and a proven track record. Here's the catchphrase. Everyone else is doing it, so I guess I have to. 34% of the market. Again, a big group. Last group, the laggards. Never adapting new technology. They're more prone to criticizing it. They want the old way, not the new way. They use established legacy systems until that option is no longer available. Okay, think of a VCR. They would still be buying a VCR right now if they could. You can't even go to a store and buy a VCR anymore, so now they're forced to buy something else. Catchphrase, that will never work. The old way is best. 16% of the market. Okay, now here's the major question. So what does this mean for me? You guys are about to end your MBA. I'm sure most of you are at your later stages. You're going to be either starting your own business or you're going to try to be in management roles. So now that we've gone through this technology adapt cycle, what does it mean for you and what does it mean for your business and how can you apply it? Okay, so here are the steps. Number one, solidify your base. Okay, so if you're starting a new company or you're starting a new product, the first step and the first strategy to put into use is solidify your base. Well, what do I mean by that? First thing is your resources are limited. This is crucial for you to understand. as managers, what your job is as a manager is you need to say, okay, here are the resources that I have available to me. Here's the task at hand. How do I maximize that impact of those resources? That's your job as a manager. Same thing as a business owner. Here is the inventory that I have. Here is the money that I have. Here is the talent that I have. I need to maximize that as much as possible in order to get a return on investment. Now, most of the time for a new product or a new company, your resources are going to be limited and they're going to be tight. So you need to allocate them strategically. You can't just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. You have to have a strategic plan to make sure you're maximizing what you have available, right? So here's the thing, because your resources are limited, you do not have the ability to target multiple segments. If you're a new business, you do not have the advertising funds, most likely, to spend to every single target market available and flood the airwaves. So you need to be strategic and find out who that path is of least resistance. And what is that path? The innovators. Okay, so that's that first group that we asked. So here are the questions you want to ask yourself. What segment is most loyal to you? So if you are a company and you're starting a new product, who is your most loyal customers? They'll try your new product first before anyone else. So you need to know that. Let's say you are starting your own business. Who's most loyal to you? Well, you just started your first business. You don't have anyone loyal to you yet. Well, look at your personal life. What family members will be a customer? What friends will be a customer? What associations will be a customer? You know, in sales, we hear warm market, right? That's what we're talking about. Who is your warm market? Who are those group of people that are most loyal to you that will be your first group of customers? You need to get them on board because them using your product or your business will create social proof. Next, who is most likely to try something new? And finally, who wants the latest and newest thing? Okay, so here's strategy number one, solidify your base. Now, if you're creating a product that is well known, like if you're creating a, I don't know, like a microphone, right? Or a different type of a pen or a different type of a picture frame. All right. If you're looking at these commodity products that everyone already knows what it is and how they work, you don't need to do this. You can jump to the mainstream because everyone already knows it. So I'm not saying you always have to start with this. But when you're starting something new, either a new product or a new company, right? So a new product that is a little bit different or a new company from scratch, these are the strategies to build your business. First step, solidify your base. Now, once you've answered these questions and you found who that first target segment is, and you have them as active customers, remember, don't move on until you have them as active customers. Solidify your base first, get some money coming in, get your product and your company out in the marketplace. Step one. After you've done that, then you're going to go to step two. You're going to attract the early adapters, the visionaries. So what you want to do is ask yourself, what segment is looking for a competitive advantage? And here are some examples. Young professionals who want to be more productive. Small businesses who want to save money. Moms who want to help their children succeed. Now, here's an interesting one. Those who care about status, who want luxury brands. Think about this. Think of Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolex, right? Are people really buying a Ferrari because of how fast it goes? Like, let's be honest. No, people are buying a Ferrari or a Lamborghini because of the status that it brings. People are buying a Rolex, not because it tells time, because you can get a watch for $10 that tells time. They're buying a Rolex because of the status it brings. It is a competitive advantage, is an advantage that that individual has to gain the status that they're seeking. That's why people buy luxury brands. Here's an interesting one. People who are adventurous, who always want that next vacation, all right, that next adventure to explore a little bit, right? So these are just some examples. Obviously, everyone's business is different, but what you want to ask yourself is look at your target market, look at these different segments, and ask yourself, okay, what segment is seeking a competitive advantage? Who is the most competitive? Who's always seeking to be more productive? Who's looking to save some money? Who's whatever it is? Who's looking for that edge? Because that's the next group of people that you want to attract. So you're going to look at your target market. You're going to see what segment is always looking for an advantage. This can be for personal advantage, a business advantage, family reasons, you name it. This is the segment you want next. This is the segment you want to target next. Now, here's the cool thing. And this is why you have to focus on the innovators first, because when this segment sees the innovators using your product with success, they'll jump on board. But they're not going to jump on board unless they see the innovators using your product with success. That's why you want to solidify your base first, get that warm market into your baseline first, and then you move on to the early adapters. Now, here's the cool thing about this group too, because this group, you can charge a premium, so you can make a pretty good profit. All right, so now we talked about the innovators and the early adapters. This is that niche market that we're talking about, that small group of people that you can customize your product to their needs. Next, what happens is we get to the chasm. And again, this is the whole point of the book, Crossing the Chasm. The chasm represents the gap between early adapters and the majority. But this is the phase where most businesses and uprising companies fail. That's important to realize. This is where the phase where the most companies fail. But why is that? Because this right here is the paradox between a niche market and a mainstream market. These markets want something completely different. So think about this. I'll use Rolex, for example. Rolex is a niche company. Again, what is the competitive advantage that Rolex provides people? Status. Does it tell time? Yes. Is it a high quality product? Yes, absolutely. But more importantly, it is status that people are looking for when they buy Rolex. It's niche. It's catered to that group of people. Now, let's say Rolex crossed over to the mainstream. And let's say all of a sudden they dropped their price and they had a product of a real low price and everyone had Rolex. The early adapters, would they still want it? No. Why is it? Because if everyone had it, it would no longer provide the status that they're seeking. And that is this paradigm of going from a niche to a mainstream. Because here's what happens. When you cater to a niche market, it's very easy to satisfy them. It's a small group of people. When you go to the mainstream, you have a huge, gigantic group of people that you got to cater to. Different people want different things. Some of you might have a huge family, or you might have a huge group of friends, right? Just imagine going on vacation with a group of 2 friends. Is it easy to find places that makes everyone happy? Yes, absolutely. There's only 2 of you going on a vacation. It's very easy to have a compromise that's going to make people happy. And it's an enjoyable experience. Think of that as your niche market. But now let's say you go on a vacation with 20 people, and all 20 people have to stay together the entire time. How easy is it making sure that everyone gets what they want? It is pretty difficult. Try just going out to dinner one night and seeing what a challenge that is, never mind a whole week. That's the same concept. In a niche market, you only have a few handful of people that you can satisfy. In a mainstream market, you got to broaden your target and you got to broaden your product offerings because you have more people you have to make happy. And you know what? When you do that, you might actually turn off the niche market that made you in the first place. So that's the trade-off. Now, you'll see some companies like Rolex and Lamborghinis and Gucci and all these different luxury brands. They will never go mainstream because they don't want to. They want to stay in the niche market. That is where the bread and butter is. They're not going mainstream because it will destroy what their business model is. You have other companies like Facebook, what Tesla is trying to do, Amazon, who have successfully gone into the mainstream, and they've done it with success because that was their strategy. You know, in the first week, we talked about strategy, and it's really important that you understand what your goals and objectives are for your business. If you want to stay loyal to a small group of people, you're not crossing the chasm. Don't even try it. Stay as a niche. If you're trying to expand the base, and if you're trying to get into the more mainstream broad category, then you want to go into the chasm. Okay, so that's why that paradox exists. Now, when we talk about the chasm, in order to cross it, you need to select a niche segment most in need of your product. Okay, so now what I'm talking about right here is by a niche segment is first you have satisfied this niche within the early adaptation with the early adapters. Now you need to find one segment in the early majority that has the most need for your product. Because think about this. What does the early majority need? They need to see other people in the early majority that are using your product. So here's the challenge. They need to see other people in the early majority to see your product being used before they'll buy. But in order for them to buy, you got to get it to people in the early majority. Catch 22. Okay. So how do you do that? Well, again, you got to find this one segment that is in the most pain and the most need. We'll talk about this in a little bit, exactly how to do that. And then you got to design and alter your product to make sure it fits the need of this segment. This is the whole product that we're talking about. Then you need to position yourself as the market leader in that segment. And once you've solidified that segment, you can move into the next. Okay. So now we're going to break this down step by step. So step 3, strategy number 3. Remember, the first strategy was solidify your base. Second strategy is find the people who are looking for a competitive advantage. Third strategy, find your lead segment. This is crossing the chasm. This is going from a niche market to a mainstream market. So how do we find our lead segment? Well, in order to cross the chasm, you need to divert all resources to capture one mainstream segment. Your lead segment is the first segment that you decide to capture. You would develop your whole product based on the needs of this segment. And we talked about new product last week. Here's the thing, though, and here's what, some of you are like, well, I want to focus on many different segments. Here's the problem. If you focus on a multiple of the segments, you would discover that different people want different things. If you try to satisfy everyone, you will satisfy no one. Okay, again, think of that group of 20 people. You try to make everyone happy, you're going to make no one happy. So instead of trying to divert all of your resources to many different segments, number one, you're going to spread yourself thin. Number two, chances are you don't have the resources to do it and you're going to fall flat. And number 3, you're going to diversify your product so much in the beginning that no one's going to be happy. Focus on this one segment first. That's the key strategy of this book. Okay, so now questions to find your lead segment. So now, how do I find my lead segment? These are the questions you want to ask. Number 1, who has a compelling reason to buy? This is based on need. What that means is who's experiencing the greatest pain. So who has the biggest problem? What segment in that mainstream has the biggest problem, but they cannot find a solution, right? So you want to be the solution finder. Who is experiencing the most pain? What segment has used product after product after product, but has not been able to find a solution? And I'm sure that many of you actually have experienced this. I'm sure that there's a problem that you're experiencing, or even the next one who has the greatest desire to purchase a product. I'm sure that many of you have something that you want to buy, or you have a problem, but there is nothing on the marketplace that either solves this problem or provides you what you're looking for. Nothing. Every single one of you have an example of that right there. And if there was a company that provided that product or provided that solution, you would buy it. Every single one of you can attest to that right now. That's what we're talking about. Now, you need to find who that person is and who that group is. That's the first thing. Number 2, can we deliver a product that properly fulfills this compelling reason? This is important. Maybe, for example, you are a car company and your target audience wants to have a car that goes 100 miles per gallon. Okay, they really, really want it. You give me a car that gives 100 miles per gallon, I'll buy it. Perfect, great. Sure, a lot of people like that. But can you actually produce the car that can fulfill that? Okay, so a lot of companies fail because of this right here. Is they try to chase a need and they try to fulfill a want, but it's not in the capabilities of their company. That's why SWOT is so important. It's so important for you to understand what strengths you have, what your weaknesses, what opportunities, and what your threats are. Because you don't want to take on an entity if you do not have the resources to fulfill it. So first, you got to find out who's that target with the most need. Next, you got to ask yourself, do we have the capabilities? Do we have the strengths and the resources and the talent and the knowledge and the expertise to actually fulfill this? Next, could the competition prevent us from gaining market share in this segment? Okay, so let's say first you find that segment that has the most need. You say, yes, we can fulfill this. Okay, once we start to go after this target market or this segment, is the competition going to squash us? Do they have an abundance of money where they can just wipe us out? Do they have a team of lawyers and R&D where they can go to market before we even think of doing it? Okay, So these are the questions you want to ask yourself. Is the competition going to squash us, or is it a safe area where we can actually go into, where we don't have, you're always going to have competition, but the competition risk is limited. All right. Again, this all goes back to the first week, that week on strategy, all those different tools, the competitive analysis that we did. All of this fits into this perfectly. Do I have partners in place to attract the segment and build the product? Okay, what that means is, number one, you're going to need suppliers. Do you have suppliers to make the product that you need? Number two, do I have the partners in place to attract the segment? So do I need to build a sales force? Is the sales force already intact? Do I need to find distributors? Is a distributor channel already in place? How am I going to get this product in the stores? Or how am I going to get this product directly to the consumer? Or how am I going to get this product online, depending on how you want to sell it? Do I have that mechanism in place to get the product to the consumer? That's what this right here says. 6, this is important too. Can they afford my product? And do we have the proper distribution channel in place? I know I mentioned that a little bit early in the other one, but the most important thing is, can they afford my product? If you make this product, is it at a price point where they can actually afford it? And then the final thing, could this segment help us maintain other segments? Okay, so you've solidified your base, you've solidified the segment with the competitive advantage, you've built your niche market. Now you want to shift from a niche company to a mainstream company. First step in doing that, which is the third strategy, is you need to find your lead segment. Break down the early majority, all the different segments in the early majority, and then find what that one company is that fulfills all of these 6. Now, this week, you guys are doing your simulation, which you'll be doing tomorrow. I'm recording this on Saturday. Tomorrow, you'll be doing your simulation. These are the questions you want to ask as you jump into it, as you select your lead segment. Here's the key to the simulation. If you select multiple segments in the early rounds, you're going to get killed. You clearly have to select one segment in the first round. Who is your lead segment? Ask these questions based on the segment information that's provided. Select your lead segment based on these questions, who you feel is most in line with this right here. Only select one. You want to solidify that one segment that first year. Next year, you pick another one. And the year after that, you pick another one, right? So in year 1, you only have one segment you're going after. Year 2, you're going to add an additional segment plus that first one. So now you're at 2 segments. Year 3, you're going to add a new segment plus the 2 that you had. So now you're going to have 3 total, okay? And that is what we call the bowling pin effect. You select your lead segment, you build your whole product around this segment and capture market share. Once you have solidified this lead segment, then you can attack another segment, attack different segments in the early majority, one at a time. And this, just like you're playing, it's like you're going out bowling. This creates a bowling pin effect, in which one segment leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. You knock one pin down, that pin knocks another pin down, knocks another pin down, knocks another pin down. Okay? This is how you capture the early majority. That's how you capture the early majority. So that, my friends, is the strategies of target market. That is the strategy of segmentation. And those are the key strategies of crossing the chasm. Okay. So now what you want to do is apply these different strategies to your simulation. Now, if you've read the book, you've read the materials, you've done your discussion, you've seen the notes that I provided, and you follow these strategies, I guarantee you'll have a successful simulation. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email. Be happy to answer them. All right, guys, have a great weekend.